All right, hello everyone. We are live playing some of the new Nebulous Fleet Command update here. We've got carriers, and I've got a special guest on the show. I've brought on local Axford enthusiast, Levy lover, Frag Torp fan, and just overall cool guy, Vren.
Hi.
He's a lovely little Levy you see in the corner of the screen there. So we're going to do a little match with the new AI here, because the AI has gotten a total overhaul rework. It is pretty fierce from what we've seen so far. So we're putting them on hard because we're hoping to get a good competition. You can go with your different levels depending on what you want to face off against. I think you said they were decently competent at executing through various plans. We're going to go with just starter fleets. So
I'm going to say captain level, actually.
Right,
They're,
so,
if you know about average rank, they're not, I wouldn't say they're Commodore level, but the new AI basically operates on a system where it cheats. But it cheats in a way that only acts on information that it can see. So there's like a strategy AI at the high level. There's a strategy AI that sort of that is able to look at the map. Obviously, because it can't.
It's got its strategic viewpoint, commander style.
Yeah, but then it gives orders and directives to let's say a specific captain who commands a 3K fleet, which would then
each
try
of
to
these individual
objectives.
CPUs here are fed info by their strategic overlord.
Yeah, and that's how the AI operates. So it's not always cheating. It's not going to fire a 450 shot through.
Yeah, it's not going to like completely blindside you. Like, oh, I've got map hacks. I'm going to deploy snipe you. But
yeah, but it will yub you on cap points. The hard AI particularly will.
If it has information that says there's a ship here, it is going to swing that.
Swing that. Neko, you just died.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. My mic just kind of did the weird thing where it hiccuped for a second because I had put it in front of my face and I bumped it again. So, yeah, it's going to swing at you with a missile and it's going to probably bonk you in the forehead. So you got to watch out for those things.
Yeah, that's the worry about the new AI. But on the other hand, it's so much better than the previous AI.
It actually works. It can change ammo types and everything.
It can change ammo types. It can even deny points. And knows the calculation deny points because it's checking how long do you need, and it will shift phases and strategies depending on how much points that your team has.
So if it decides, okay, we need to YOLO for this point, we're in the fourth quarter, we need like 200 to win here, you need 100, let's try and 5-cap you, it will go for it.
Yes.
All right. So
it's a bit scary that way.
Yeah. Remember, Nebulous matches are marathons, not sprints. Until you get that last final section, then you get some very interesting things happening leading up to that last little cap there. Anyways, let's go ahead. I want to have you on the show because you're also, as I understand, the curator of Kyanite Squadron here, one of the starter fleets. So if I hop into the fleet editor, then we can take a look. So Kyanite, from the outside, looks pretty similar here. 450 Bulker pair with a little Bloodhound tug to go with them. But if we take a look at the backside, we've got some new modules on these. You want to talk about those a little bit?
Yes. So right now, Kyanite has essentially a backpack fighter group. The old MOS missiles are out. Backpack fighters are in. And you're going to find this as a fairly good build for most 450, or even like most liners in general, like having these backpack fighters. There's also, if you look at the tugboat until the end.
Yep, we'll just take a look at that guy. A little new device on that. What's that on the belly there?
There's a command jammer. OSP, in order to help balance out the soft kill capacities on both sides, OSP got a very limited short-range command jammer. It literally can just hold this group together in a close formation.
Notice it's only got 2.5 kilometer on that range, not the... Well, what is it? It's like 4K, I think, for the...
It's almost like 4K for the standing interrupt. Yeah, 4K for the disco ball. So the Warbler is just good to have these days. OSP against command hybrids. You can still get through it because someone could just go command EO.
You can get your different types of combos there, so it's not an unkillable bubble, but it is nice to have those extra options of counterplay, because before it was only the Acello to counterplay with the comms jamming.
Yeah, and because what happened was a lot of craft also can carry command torpedoes.
Yep, another scary thing there. Just suddenly having to deal with the comms being right next to you as they're dumping those torps on you. Have to watch out for bombers.
Exactly. So that's why the command jammer was added, to sort of offset that.
Got a Dazzler on top as well in case of those EO threats like you mentioned, but...
Pretty much. And then on the back of the liner, if you're looking to a little more
taking
detail,
a look back at the No Other Way here.
Look at the middle mounts between the hangars, I think.
So we should see that there is some new mounts on these, the little small point defense mounts here. So I believe it was 4 of these were added to each liner. You can see one on the little nose there. You got these 2 on the side, and I think there's just one cute guy up top here. So that's an extra. Let's see if I can find it on the mounts list. Should be an extra 2x1x2. So it's strictly a point defense mount, which means you can't fit any more of the like offensive tools like a T20 in there. But it does give you extra options for deflecting strike craft and fighters and stuff.
Yeah. And finally, there's a little option. Do you see the Sal's Ward Launcher?
The size. Where
Sal's
is there? It is. Yes, the Ward in Mount 12. I see that now. That's on the back slot there.
Both liners have something called the Sal's Ward Launcher. Several OSP starters have versions of this particular launcher type, which is swing arm launcher. You would see them in the older 1980 style.
The little one-arm bandit, I think, was the term used for it.
Yeah, or the 2-arm bandits.
We got the larger version somewhere. I don't know if we can show that off. Where is that?
Unfit.
Here it is.
Show only fitting.
Yes, that's a 3x4x5, so it's a bit bigger compared to the Ward, which is a 3x4x3.
Yeah. The reason why you want to keep these swing arm launchers is they're launching anti-craft munitions, specifically for Kyanite. There's the bomber deterrent, if you look at the magazine.
Take a look down in that mag. Ooh, that is a load of loadouts there, if we ever saw one on the screen. Not sure if you can see it all there, but yeah. Big old...
Yeah, so they got the 450 shells, the good old 20 mil. You got the bomb deterrent, which is what the Sal's fires.
Take a look at that in the missile designer real quick. So you can see Wake primary with the command secondary on there. It's defensive fire, targeting against craft now. So
yeah. They're actually a missile of my particular invention, where basically these are enabled to one-shot a bomber in one hit. So, and they have a very high percentile chance to do so because...
component damage of 139, and bombers have how much health?
135.
There you go, exact. So that's going to be a size 6 blast frag warhead. Make sure you're doing blast frag, not HE impact. We've made that mistake before.
We have made that mistake before, yes. But yes, this blast frag warhead is basically designed to one-shot bombers.
Notice it is under the threat zone there. It's specifically keyed towards size 3s, which I believe is the bombers versus lighter craft, which would be the 1s and 2s.
Mm-hmm. And so what happens is that if a bomber approaches Kyanite and you happen to lose all your fighters and you can't intercept them, smack.
Got the option of just whipping out one of those missiles, which, as anyone who has had hybrid missiles shot at them with AMMs and defenses knows, sometimes you just need that little extra bit to deter them. Anyways, that's our little bomber deterrent device there. Want to talk about these void sweepers I'm seeing here? What do we got in those?
Let's talk about the craft.
Let's open up the new UI tab, the spacecraft designer, and I'll show off the Barracuda here. This is one of the OSP's fighter craft, so you can fit a total of 8 of these. That's 1 per hangar on the Kyanite fleet we got selected.
Pretty much. Now, do you want me to talk about like which starters have craft deco actually?
Let's start off just by talking about the craft here to begin with. So I'm noticing immediately, we see our configurations over here. We've got a nose gun on this thing at 35mm, which seems to be a heavy cannon here. And we got a couple of different loadouts. So the 35mm nose gun, this is fixed on the craft, and you can't change that once you brought it to the match. But these, I believe you've chosen and created for different loadouts. So you want to talk me through what this main escort anti-light roll is?
The main escort anti-light loadout is basically the first thing you fire off when you bring Kyanite. That's why it's at the top of the list.
All right.
And that's why it's not called backup, because it's meant to be. If you scroll down, you notice that there's fuel pods, there's gem pods.
Yep.
And then there's 2 anti-craft size 1 missiles.
Yep. Noticing those.
And then you have
sweepers.
aside from the 35mm flechette gun pod, if you look really at the bottom, you notice the rockets.
Yes, I do. There is rockets in this thing, which are in
You'd find them delicious
slots somewhere. Yeah,
You'd
okay,
find
those
delicious,
the triangle ones. Gotcha.
Yep, and you'd find them delicious, Neko, because they are after all fish.
Yippee! I very much like the fact that OSP just has all fish everything. I still want that tuna class mine layer, but so close. One day, maybe one day.
Tuna class mine layer, maybe one day. Yep. So yeah, the perch rockets are like one of the newest OSP weapons in this game. Aside from the R3 rockets, the R1 rockets are purely anti-light. I think they have less than 40 cm a pen.
Probably not that much, as I believe the conventional working rockets we use are the R2s, correct?
Maybe 15 meters a pen. I don't remember the exact amount.
So it's not that much, though.
No, but they are very. They are like this burst of damage
All right.
that basically rip a craft apart. They rip light ships apart. So use them against shuttles. Use it,
Shuttles, the
corvettes.
Wayward Scout frigate. Now and then you might see
Yeah.
Destroyer if you get real lucky on the attack angle.
Yeah. So they actually, weirdly enough, they're coded like a gun.
Okay.
So
Interesting.
they are, but you treat them like missiles. So treat them like missiles, but they are coded like a gun.
All right. It's kind of a simple, straight fire, direct shot, kind of the way you get. There's this one World War II pilot who strapped like 6 bazookas to his spotter plane and just used that to hunt tanks. So similar idea.
Yeah. So they're very similar idea. They're equipped like this because one, the nose gun is equipped with specifically the flechette round. If you notice.
Yep. We take a look at
the
35 mil flechette round. You have a choice between flechette or slug, depending what you want to be fighting.
Yeah, slug can be used for anti-ship capabilities, but only like very light anti-ship. So it will take like quite a long time for you to bore through corvette armor.
If I remember right, it has like only 4 centimeters of pen, and corvettes have what's it like 8 centimeters or so. So you have to really bing those plates a couple times.
Yeah, so that's a bit of a complicated one.
Right.
And so what's going on there is that you can't rely on 35 to just kill everything.
Yeah.
Thankfully.
But if you do hit something with it, it's going to feel it, because it's a 35
Yes.
millimeter cannon compared to the faster
Yes. 20
mil autocannons.
Yes, but that's only if you equip the slug format. If you
Alright.
equip with the flechette, which is OSP exclusive, the flechette is an anti-craft, anti-missile round.
All right. So it fires kind
basically
of
allows
a
you-
shotgun blast akin to grape.
Pretty much.
All
Yeah,
right.
I can agree. Shotgun glass, very good against craft, pretty good against missiles. That's why it's equipped with the best nose gun possible, along with the R1 rocket bots.
You have your choice of the
anti-light.
20 mil, the 35 mil. So if you're hunting heavy targets, your flechette round might take a while to get through them, and that's what you got those rocket pods for. So this is a good general purpose, kind of air superiority, and also light ship hunter. Good way of dealing with those lighter craft. You can't really smack with the 450 guns because they overpen through corvettes.
Yeah, pretty much. And if you look up top, you got the S1. The size 1 missiles are for both to hit craft, because they're
Yeah, it's your just
hit
general
craft.
kind of, I want to throw some missile out here. Noticeably, they are frag missiles, so these would be going after specifically strike craft, not able
Pretty
to
much.
affect any large targets like, corvettes or above.
Yeah, and then you have the jammers. The craft jammers are quite good. They are not perfect, but they're good enough to.
It's good
decoy
enough to mess
certain
up that axe seeker coming at you, right?
Yeah, they are, and they're also able to mess up with other craft missiles on occasion.
All right.
Not perfectly. It's not perfect. They're not as powerful as like your ship mounted, obviously jammers, obviously, but they are able to mess around with that.
So you've got a nice selection of tools and toys here, jamming pods to deal with axe seekers, and I believe that every craft comes with some built-in chaff and flare countermeasures, right?
Yeah, you do not need to load them.
All right.
They are
So
just automatically included in the craft.
nice to see that's automatic, so we don't end up with that moment where it's like, oh no, I forgot to load flares. Oh no, that's a wake missile.
Yep. And they also automatic deploy, so you don't have to. They have to do it. Craft
Nice
have
to
an
hear.
evasive movement. Yeah, but do be warned. So the craft have a very good evasive movement to preserve themselves. This can be exploited, but I'm not. You really need to know all
You
the
really
specific
have
directions.
to be 4 steps ahead of them to predict, I'm gonna make you juke exactly this path, and then I'll line up this intercept. And
Kind
then
of.
Sometimes
you
just
need to know
nebulous happens, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, or you need to know exactly which missiles to use, and it gets complicated as hell. So
And
I
that's
won't go
mind
into
game of
details.
playing against the certain player who's like, I know
Yep.
you only bring this missile, so I'll bring this one, and then, well, that's
yeah,
nebulous chess.
Yeah. So just keep that in mind when you go against under the craft. You might find, I just ate crap and died.
Yep.
That's why, because they probably figured out that this is the loadout that you are using.
So there's the whole fourth dimensional chess, much in the way we saw with Cap War in the previous patch, where people would figure, oh well, you've got rocket shuttle, so I'll take this device to counter your rocket shuttle. Now, because I know that you've got that device to counter rocket shuttle, I'll bring this one instead to jam it on cover. It's a various steps of counter until you get to
Yep.
whatever level
Pretty
it is of silliness, and then usually you just get overcomplicated and realize, oh wait, we're silly. We completely forgot about the basics.
Pretty much.
Couldn't be
So, yeah,
us.
but this is Kyanite's standard loadout, and then you have the backup bombs.
Yep. So let's
And
flick
backup
over,
guns.
and so just to showcase this here, you may notice the loadouts here change. Notice some of these are mutually exclusive. Like for backup bombs, we can no longer equip jamming pods. Instead, we're taking these KBU-22 bombs in those slots. You can see the updated graphics here as I flick between them. So, what do those bombs do, Bren?
They kill big ships, but only because of Surgeon's tester who continued to hellbomb people that was mentioned in the devlog. They only can hit stationary targets, preferably, because there are 2 restrictions on top of the bombs. One, they are slow, so you launch them close, often within defender range, even sometimes.
So as I understand, these bombs are really meant there to just kind of like a wounded ship that's barely limping out of the battle space or has its drive disabled. You're just trying to put the nail in the coffin on that thing, right?
Exactly. They're very good at doing that because they break DT damage threshold.
I think it was, you said there was like, what, 75 or 100 damage rate or something real spicy with that?
I don't remember. It's spicy. It's a spicy
some number that's high.
But it's like, it's effective pulling a gun to someone's head and firing it.
Yeah.
But the problem is you have to put the gun to someone's head.
They are very much not wanting to stand there, so...
Exactly. And so with the bombs, aside from the restriction of they're slow, your craft have to be flying straight ahead for about 5 seconds.
Gotta get that good old dive bomber, build up the speed, and then release so that way they get the velocity wanted.
But effectively, this renders it very easy to interception, point defense.
So if the ship is awake, then that's going to be a very dead fighter or bomber.
Yeah, but if your ship is dead or like badly damaged, you can easily kill it.
Just look at that thing that's been, completely sandbagged. Like maybe the Axford possibly limps back with its, I don't know, an aux steering and a drive or something. And then you're just like, nah, not going to happen, bud. And you just plaster them with one of these.
Pretty much.
All right.
And then you have the backup guns only loadout, which is my flesh shed.
Yeah, you just got the gun still fixed on this. Because again, it's the same craft. So while you can change out the wing loadouts on this craft, when you buy it, you are still deciding, do I get the 20 mil gun or the 35 mil gun or the nose illuminator? So you do have some fixed things, but you do have variety when you're in the actual game and can pick your loadouts. Anyways, your backup gun only was...
I think it's just 35 flechette, is it?
Yeah, you've just got 35 mil flechette, no slugs in this by the looks of it.
Okay.
So.
The reason I added that is because if you look at basically how craft loadouts work as they show up in your craft flight menu, is that they show up based on the ammunition you have. So let's imagine that I extended all the Act S ones somehow.
So you can see on the anti-light here, that Void Seeker, if we didn't have any of these, we couldn't load them, obviously.
You could actually. It just wouldn't load it without the Void Seeker. It looks confusing as hell in the craft menu. So that's why I specifically added the backup guns loadout to show people that, by the way, you still got like ammunition left to fire. Like
still have all your tools and toys. You just don't have that. Hey, boss, we got a warning. We don't have this Act missile anymore. Are you sure you want to load this?
Yes, that's what you have to watch out for in your when you're managing your craft. Sometimes if you do not bring enough loadouts or ammunition for your loadouts, you're getting that warning. You can still launch the thing, actually. It will not prevent you from launching. It just looks like you don't have any loadouts of it left, even though like half the loadout is available.
So you just get a loadout UI counter. Bug. Okay.
It's not a UI bug. It's intended to show you that you do not have the full loadout available.
Yeah. But it is just going to be a little bit of visual clutter. So if you're just saying, all right, I'm out of Act size ones, I'm just going to load with guns, you can do that. Shotgun in the chat is asking, are bombs invisible to PD?
No.
Oh, there's a fair, clear cut and dry answer.
Very easy to kill PD. Kill by PD.
Yeah. Gotta remember, again, it's a device. It's not meant to insta-kill a ship. This is meant to be the finishing blow after you've beaten the snot out of it, and then really need to make sure that you break that damage threshold so you don't spend the next 5 minutes pounding it, trying to maybe tickle that reinforced component at 0.
Probably a good idea to use them against like battleships that limped into a cap.
Yeah, the little zombie craft that just refuses to die at the end of the game. So
pretty much. All right.
Anyways, that's covering the little loadout. So Kyanite is a nice, fun little fleet there because it gives you the familiarity of 450 Bulkers broadsiding, just kind of your big old line ships, duck out of cover, fire your guns. They got some secondaries in the form of the T-20 with, I believe it has the flak rounds of the 100 mils, right? Somewhere.
Very good against craft. Also good against
100 mil flak.
You need a certain amount to get them good against bombers, but they're very good against fighters itself.
So, nice little way of having a dual-purpose turret there. That's a mouthful.
Yep.
Yeah. Anyways, with that, that's kind of Kyanite. I think I'll run this fleet for our little show match today. But real quick, do we want to just look over? I think you were thinking of running. What was it? One of the other starter fleets, one of the more dedicated carriers.
Gonna run. You know what? I will run Amethyst. Amethyst Squadron is the OSP Moore line.
So big old container liner here, familiar to most people. Notice the lack of containers, instead replaced by these container bank hangers here. So big old strike platform.
Amethyst includes two tools that you probably would see, but probably not like be familiar with if you go to craft loadouts.
All right, let's take a look at that spaceship. I see Sturgeons, Barracudas, and Halberds. What do we want to talk about first?
So let's talk about the Sturgeon.
All right, good start.
It brings death.
Well, that's a good way of saying it. Yeah, I'm looking at loadouts. I'm seeing torpedoes, heavy rockets, and 100 mil cannons. Want to start with torps?
let's start with torpedoes. Torpedoes are your, like still OSP and ANS considering torpedoes. They're very good with bombers. Claymores can bring them, two of them as well. Use them. There's not much I can talk about.
It's a torpedo. I think we've all been hit by a torp once or twice in our life, and we know how much those hurt. Take a look at the missile designer on these things. Bludgeons are packing a size 5 warhead. That's, just, 3,600 HP worth of damage.
Yeah. I think we can talk about the poleaxe, though, which is using
the poleaxe is a little different there. Let's see. What do you got quirky about this?
Is it using Actherm or Actwake?
He's using thermal. Okay, so we were going to talk about this a little later, but there's a new seeker in the game. It's a variant of the Wake that we know and love. It's the Wake Thermal here. So,
yeah. So the Wake Thermal is specifically to be used as a validator on your missiles. Basically, once every ship now has a corona signature. Basically, think of like that when you turn an IR camera onto a ship. Like even if you turn the engine off, it's still glowing because of the heat dispersion.
My brother, you've got heat signature. It came with your internal combustion engine.
Pretty much. And so the Wake Thermal reads that heat signature and can validate from all aspect.
Take a look at the bottom of this text block here, chat. Notice the all aspect val 175. That means that from the rear perspective, this thing validates with 175 degrees. So outside of a 10 degree wide cone in the front of the ship, this thing is going to validate.
Yep. And if you're a large ship in particular, you can use these torpedoes to smack an Axford.
Yeah.
Of course, you can still jam the primary seeker, or you can even screw them around with active decoys. Got that
steerable active seeker in the nose here. So again, it's an act seeker. These are vulnerable to jamming, decoys, chaff, etc. Although with the validator, you can discriminate against chaff because chaff is quite cold. So
yeah. So therefore, that allows OSB to have a more reliable seeker type to punish particularly large ships.
Yeah. Is this one specifically OSP exclusive, or does this also appear? It's OSP exclusive.
OSP
all right,
exclusive.
So ANS got their EO, OSP got their Wake Thermal.
It's very good.
All right.
One thing I should mention about craft design if you're designing craft,
go back to spacecraft then. Yep.
No, craft missiles. Just even if you stay in the missile screen.
Right.
You're going to notice that the range bands are going to be very specific because bombers, for ship launched craft missiles, for bombers, they launch them at 95% of the maximum range.
So I'm noticing these torpedoes have a 4.5 kilometer range, so 90% of that will minus 450 meters. That's going to be just outside 4K?
Yeah, and so that would be what we call the stand-in range, which is when most bombers are launching their torpedoes.
All right.
You'll get your stand-in range, which is basically the default setting for most craft. Active missiles also launch from craft launch missiles, like anti-fighter missiles.
Those launch one of these for post blocks, if I had to guess here. I'm not sure which one, but one of those.
Now, these ones aren't tuned to launch at 4 km because when you're designing a craft missile, you end up with the fighter only launches them at 75% of their maximum range.
Okay, so instead of the 5 kilometer range on one of these things, that would be at math on stream is dangerous.
3 point something km.
Yeah, 3.75, I think. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah, so just be careful when you're designing your craft missiles that the bombers launch at 95%, the fighters launch at 75%.
Right. Was it 95 or 90? That was
95.
95 or okay.
I don't remember where it's actually stated.
Let's say it's somewhere written down, and we'll find that later on. There's going to be guides posted about this that are very helpful, and there's a tutorial too, I think.
I posted a bunch of guides on it on Steam. People can check it out. But yeah, just be warned, they're not launching at maximum range. Yep. They're launching at a percentage of that maximum range to allow for lead time.
So you got to remember, when your missile launches here, it might say, hey, that craft is potentially within 5 kilometers of me, but it's also assuming that craft is in motion and then might be juking and evading. So if it launched at exactly 100% of the range there, that missile would run out of fuel long before it hits that craft.
Exactly.
All right. So we got a little buffer time in there.
Sorry, that was a bit of a sidetrack there, Cole.
Yeah, sidetrack into missiles. We were going to cover that later, but we did it now, so hey, we're still on script. Anyways, we got our torpedo bombers here. Nice, nasty device here. Notice these do not have a nose gun. It's just a ordnance delivery device. So
yeah,
kind of have to pick your poison on what you bring with these. I'm noticing these are only bringing on their torpedoes. They do have the option of bringing on some of these whirlwind missiles here, so we could potentially outfit those on the wings if we wanted.
They do. The Sturgeon is the most flexible bomber in the entire game right now of the two.
Got all those mounts to use it.
Yeah, it is expensive though because you can use all those mounts.
I'm not sure if
Which makes sense why this only
is 15 points for the frame and then all the payload on it.
What I mean is that if someone smacks you with a breadstick, sorry,
yes, the working term for the torpedoes, we called them breadsticks. I remember talking about that.
Sorry, it's a working term for the size 2 anti-bomber munition that I designed a while ago.
Oh, okay.
That every termed that we end up terming the breadstick, but it's and the anti-bomber determined on Kyanite, which a bunch of other OSP Starfleets essentially have the same device.
Take a look at that one, then going back to Kyanite real quick. So that would be the bomber deterrent then. That was the breadstick.
Yeah.
Then? All right.
Yes. So the bomber deterrent, that's what's called the breadstick. It's also on the other fleets under different names.
Specifically keyed so that it counters a bomber one shot, ideally with that blast frag.
So consider that you load your torpedoes up, and you get hit by one of these things.
7-point missile versus like a 15-point hull. Plus, I think those torps were like 15 points a pop, and you had 2 of them. So that's like 7 points for, I don't know, 45 to 50. That seems like a trade up in my book.
It's a very good trade, which is why there are certain, like when you look at the Sturgeon, you think about what to mount on it. You need to consider that, okay, we're not just considering how much like bang I get for my buck after loading it out and then firing off. What happens if I lose the damn thing?
Yep. Got to consider that investment because there can be screening fighters. You can hit by flak, RPF, incoming like interception missiles. You want to make sure you're getting your money's worth out of it, but you also want to make sure you don't put too many of your eggs in one basket and then you throw, say, I don't know, a 100-point fighter into a flak screen and you're just kind of sitting there wondering what you did with your life.
Yep. Okay, so that's torpedo loadout.
Torpedoes.
There's also the rocket loadout.
Tell me about these new heavy rockets, these spearfish.
The R3 rocket is basically a straight line torpedo. It's a 2-point straight line torpedo.
Ooh.
It has no guidance whatsoever, but, well, it's a rocket torpedo. So
sounds dangerous.
It is dangerous. In the right volume against like a heavy ship that can't move very fast, and that has, let's say, some PD stripped, or even like if you put like a 6 bomber flight with like I don't know, 12 of these things charging right at you.
You just get let's take a look at the fleet, right? Like for our ship here, we count our heavy pads. There's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 of these things. So you could potentially launch a flight of 4 Sturgeons at somebody, and then that'll be ×2. So you get 8 of these spearfish rockets breathing down your neck.
It is recommended you just don't launch 4 because the way that the R3 rockets is on straight line, defenders would chew them up. So I'd recommend like 6 maybe.
All right, so just kind of launch one air wing, then have the next one readied up for launch padding and that. So group your stuff up.
So 6 is probably better. I've tried them against like a Vauxhall, and it's like, that doesn't.
Yeah. So
they're not.
It is the classic
of
straight fire missile. Enemy can get out of the way. They can be shot by defenders. These are not unplayable or uncounterplayable. That's a fun word.
No, they're not.
Though. Yeah.
They're not uncounterable. They're very good actually for their cost because remember there are 2 points.
Yep. 2 points per missile. That seems like a pretty good steal compared to like what was the 15 or so for the torpedoes we saw earlier.
Yeah, but you have that trade-off of one can be shot down by defenders, the other one just
could end up missing. Like if you fire a rocket and then they start juking 90 degrees, it's like, oh well, that's all my missiles. Top 10 in the chat asking, is ship launching heavy rockets possible?
No. Thank God for no.
Yeah, so unfortunately to the rocket enthusiasts, nope, size 3s are going to be bomber exclusive. So your size 2 launchers that you'll see on some ships. We have the classic rocket shuttle with its piranha spam. You see occasionally some people bring like monitors as little goalies. Sometimes some people in my chat bring out a rocket liner for fun. Somebody new choice feeling like candy? Yep, this is the candy store update. Like there is so much stuff to sink our teeth into. So.
And you know what? We have to do AI, so you can train it. You can test them all.
You can be bad anytime you want. You don't have to sit in the lobby waiting for people to queue up for it. You can test out your idea, both playing as and against it. I'm just gonna say it now. I think the AI is gonna be better than the players for like a good couple weeks here because it is knowing how to play carriers, and we do not.
Well, it actually has one blind spot that I can tell you how to exploit later on.
Ooh, okay, well we'll just have to do that then, so I can get a big number and go for internet cloud. Obviously,
it's actually not even a blind spot. It's more like it's not programmed to do something that not even most players are able to do at this point in time.
So just one of those like little outlier quirks you get. Well, that'll probably get
basically
patched or
the anti-bomber deterrent right now can lock onto a bomber and smack it in the face.
All right.
So that kind of means that you have to manually order the craft to intercept the bombers.
Okay.
So that's something that AI may or may not do. I'm not entirely sure if it's been programmed into it yet. I don't think it's done that yet.
We'll see how it ends up going. And again, this is the first patch for this. I'm sure that a hotfix is already in the works dealing with some bug that's going to come up. Because anytime you get a patch in a game, you'll get some bug or some little outlier weird thing that lists there. But that'll probably
the fact of the matter, though, is the player carrier, I played a game last night, is actually quite good. It's actually kind of like... Wait, it's actually escorting as bombers? What the hell?
Yeah, so you can get some fun things there, like you get your bomber flight escorted by, say, your wing of Barracudas here. Because if we look at the line, you can launch off your bombers, and you can have the alert fighters stationed with them. Like, if I just wanted to, say, quickly get planes in the air, I could launch, I think if I count this right, 10 Barracudas along with 4 Sturgeons, scrambling them quick, assuming they're all loaded and locked.
Pretty much.
All right. So,
sorry, that was a lot
as I just scrolled down here and looked at the last loadout, tell me about these 100mm heavy cannons we're seeing here, because I'm a gun pod enthusiast.
The gun pods are basically fire your standard 100mm from bombers. They carry about 100 per bomber.
All right.
And they just go Daka. Recommend you could switch them between standoff and stand-in. The standoff function allows them to fire at max range. Stand-in function allows them to only fire within 4 km.
So that gives you the option of taking potentially the long-range shot, because I believe these rounds here are also inheriting their like normal properties, right? Like 100mm.
They inherit exactly normal properties.
All right, so
the trade-off is that bombers have a 4-kilometer fire control radar.
So you're going to be firing without a lock then, so you need something to give you a detector.
Yes. Though that being said, because of how fast because defenders also like point defense and everything.
Point defense go burr.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea to fire them on standoff, on what we call the standoff setting, which you can
potentially you would say maybe you get a track on something from, I don't know, like maybe there's a shuttle nearby or some other like flight has gotten radar lock. You could then try and snipe someone from like 7 kilometers with these HE rounds if it's, I don't know, just a Corvette wandering on a point.
Well, we can talk about the skiff then in that case, because that's what's going to give you the tracks.
That's a good point. That's a good segue. Gun pods, fun and joyous. Let's talk about this new Halberd skiff.
The skiff is a utility craft available to both factions. It is it is unlike a fighter in that it is it doesn't have the same movement characteristics of a fighter. It's slower,
a lot boxier, kind of more lumbering, kind of that support band rather than the elegant.
You have no access to fuel tanks, but its radar is omnidirectional. Fighter radar, bomber radar is forward only.
See, this thing has, and looking at the mission package, internal radar advanced. So
yeah. So this has an 8 cam radar.
There you go. So that's the same range as your front line. Got a lot of gain in there, aperture size, sensitivity, all those numbers you can look at. It also can lock noticeably.
It can lock, though you have to like micro-click it. It's really annoying.
Yeah. So this is one of those things you kind of send one of these up into an area. You've got 8-kilometer radar range, very much akin to, say, just having a cheap frontline little Corvette out there. Maybe not quite having a bullseye because this is integrated versus like a surface mount, but it does have that scouting option that you can now send over to various areas. Noticeably, this thing is 50 points, that internal radar costing 35, so it's going to run you a little bit, but...
Yeah. And it has a chin mount. You can equip it also with a turret if you don't want the advanced radar.
See,
and
that
then you can
has
equip
the
with some
option.
self-defense.
Here it is, yeah. So you can get yourself, if I click install, it'll do the adaptation there. Now we've got 2 35mm guns, so this thing could potentially defend itself against a little attacker.
Yeah. Or you can even equip it with the OSP, the wake healet.
Yes, the Winard, as we've heard that thing called. I spotted that in one of the B-reels. So, wake sensor infrared package detector. What does that do?
Basically, it detects engine signatures. Yeah. I don't remember if it detects craft signatures, but it does detect engine signatures.
So I'm seeing a 15-kilometer max range signature type of wake there. So you're going to get a little blob device similar to how the Pinard module works, but it's going to have the W in the middle saying, hey boss, there's a ship over here moving.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
And is that omnidirectional, or does it have to be like these ships?
I don't remember actually.
Well, we'll find out one way or another then.
I don't quite remember. I haven't been able to run it too often. Just testing and like.
Yep, you get your various testing cycles and go from that, but. So.
Yeah, I haven't been able to run it, but it is very good. I've heard nothing but good praise for this one because it's very fun.
Scouting is a very important thing in Nebulous. Again, I'm pretty sure nobody has ever complained about having too much scouting info. Mostly because we all just like running big ships.
You probably do notice the Ferryman Masquerade.
I did see that, and I'm thinking, what silliness can we get up to? Is this a shuttle? Is this not a shuttle? What is this?
It's not a shuttle. It's basically a masquerade that tells people that this is a shuttle.
All right.
And you can use it to decoy hybrids. or you can even use it to just to say, hey,
Okay.
shoot at me with an anti-ship missile.
So wait,
then it
hang
will
on a
shoot at-
second here. You said decoy hybrids. So if I have a hybrid, like say a Act Seeker, right, and I fire this off, would that mean if it doesn't have detect small threats, it would still like stage or maybe get fooled by this thing? Or
Yes.
all right, so we've got some silliness, and this craft is able to juke and kind of evade. So one of those anti-ship missiles might be evaded by this little guy just pulling a hard left.
Well, it's an HEI ship missile. It's a high explosive ship missile, right? Even if it might not even.
It might not even get close enough to you, so you could just do like a quick bang to the left, and the hybrid goes whoom right by.
Yeah.
All right,
so that's why it's appropriately priced at 30. It's pretty expensive.
It's a 30-point investment for a ship, but at the same time, you can be funny with it. So yeah, masquerades, be silly.
Yeah. So, like ANS has a Corvette version. So.
So they can do their own little shenanigans for Cap or War.
Pretty much. Right. The only thing ANS does not have is the advanced radar for their skiff version.
We'll look
and
at
the reason why
in a bit or so,
yeah.
But so yeah, you just get your basic scouting skiff loadout here. You could take missiles on this thing if you so desired. There's the option to bring it on the racks, but again, like Vren mentioned before, every time you're going to add on like different loadouts to this thing, you have to consider how much is that cost and do I need this? Nebulous a game of numbers where you have to decide what do I really need? Am I going to fill this like one hull up with 3,000 points of stuff, or am I going to distribute it more to where it's necessary?
Pretty much.
All right. That's the. So we covered the Barracudas a little bit earlier with what was it? Kyanite. So just looking at these, they've got things like they've got a void patrol dogfight loadouts, jamming pods, fuel tanks. Noticeably about the fuel tanks, I want to talk about this because somebody mentioned it to me earlier. If we take a look at the craft stats here, notice your basic craft here with your fuel time on the Barracuda. You've only got 900 fuel capacity, which means you can loiter for 10 kilometers or cruise for 31. Fuel tanks seem very important because they make it so you go basically 4 times longer than you could before.
Yes.
And because you're going to be on that fast burn speed in combat, you're going to go through your fuel super quick.
Yep, they're very important. ANS has the version to mount their Tanto with a center line fuel tank. So they generally, sometimes they don't need the fuel tank loadout. But yeah, OSP Barracudas, particularly like long-range patrol Barracudas, you're going to need a fuel tank. You're
going to want that combat flight, just kind of a good checkbox to bring, and then you can bring your other tools and toys like your jamming pods.
It does increase your loadout, your like loading time though, quite significantly.
Let's see if I can find that on the stats page. Yeah, we look at our pre-flight time. It's 1 minute 11 seconds versus with the fuel tanks, that's going to add on about 32 seconds or so for your load up. So it will matter.
It will matter, but like if you don't want to like micro your craft that often, then like I'll go back and forth, or get caught out in the middle of a dogfight without no view. Yeah, fuel tanks.
All right. So we mentioned the ANS stuff before, and chat's kind of talking about them. Let's go ahead and load a ANS fleet real quick to peek at. Starter fleets.
Maples.
It was Maple.
Maple
yeah.
probably. Maple.
Let's take a look. This is the Levy class escort carrier, the little thing that Vren is appearing at in the corner of the screen. Look at this little guy.
Hi.
Yeah, this is your kind of escort carrier. So similar to the way we saw kind of the strike platforming, you see that there's the specific like per faction ships. So let's take a look at the ANSs. Want to start top of the list with a longsword?
Longsword? Oh, you mean the Barracuda? Oh, there's the Tanto.
It's called the longsword on the screen here is all, but
you can rename your Claymore. You can rename your craft loadouts.
There we go.
Your craft names.
Frame model is Claymore. It's a bomber. That explains it. Somebody's clearly a Halo fan calling the bomber longsword.
You can call it the B2 if you'd like to. The Claymore bomber, which is the frame class, this one carries torpedo bombers and KBUs.
Yep. See the just fairly simple, straightforward loadout. You've got cluster bombs, your KB-22s, you've got your truncheons. These are called just a little torpedo there for goodies. So pretty short, sweet, to the point. Not really much in customization here, but at the same time, it's just purpose built to be a bomber. So
yeah. And also one disclaimer: why do ANS craft look like they can fly in the atmosphere? That's because they can. The lore story is that they are intended for atmosphere and space combat. That's why they look like planes in space.
Sorry, 1 second. Markson, thank you for the subscribble. Anyways, continuing on. Yes, you can go in both atmosphere and in space with these, because Alliance Design Doctrine said, we want one craft that can do it all, and, well, Design by Committee said, burr.
Yeah. So, yeah, the bombers in ANS are... They're not entirely as customizable as OSP's bombers, but they're very good at their job. Like,
not needing to be anything more than it is, really.
Exactly. Does
the Claymore have any advantage to the Sturgeon?
ANS carriers have one major advantage over all OSP carriers, which kind of translates to their craft. Their arming cycle times are faster.
Take a look here by adding the blank ship. I think it shows up. Yep, so you see you got that baseline spacecraft arming speed of 20% higher on those Levy class escorts. I think every ANS ship has that can mount craft. Battleship has it, Levy has it, Axford has it. I don't think the other ones have any ability to mount craft, so it doesn't matter there. But
yeah. So yeah, your ANS ships can fire off their craft faster. That's kind of the biggest advantage ANS has in this update.
In this case,
and that's kind of important because you may not need as many buffing modules.
That's another thing to consider. If we take a look at the Levy over here, it's got some modules over here. You see flight deck traversals. These reduce the time it takes to move ships around on the deck. You get things like the deck gear locker here. This increases the arming speed. So a pair of those, I believe, adds up. Let me see if I can find in the stats page here. Should be under one of these. So yeah, you see carried craft here. Their deck traversal time is much lower. Their arming speed is over 200%. So you can get planes in the air very fast because the Alliance has the sort of, I believe in the Lords, the better trained deck crews and ability to launch craft that way. So,
yep.
Yeah. So again, it's both sides have their own like kind of unique spin on strike craft. It's very much the asymmetrical warfare that makes Nebulous quite interesting with that. So while you can have both players like show up with a carrier fleet, they can take on very different roles, either on the same faction or on opposing factions, depending what kind of loadout and role you're trying to pursue. All right.
Pretty much.
So that's the longsword covered.
You have to remember the AS hybrids
that I'm looking at here real quick.
We're talking about Sundial? Is that the Sundial?
Yes, the Sundial. Just going by the name.
The Sundial frame. The Sundial frame is it's a 10 km radar in space. You can equip with the Elite module. It's very based. It's incredibly based.
I think I need to make a new loadout.
You need to make a new loadout.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
It's under configuration. That's why. All right, I was in the wrong section. Anyways. Delete
it's under configuration. It's an Elite. It's Elite module. You'll take it to 100 points, but it's a 10 km movable radar.
This is
with an Elite module.
This is a nice tool to go and say, I wonder what's around that corner and then some. So instead of firing off the old scouting missile or something like that, now you send this plane out. This also plays in a big factor of providing that omnidirectional radar because, as I understand, fighters like these, what are these? The Tantos, they only have forward-facing radars, right?
Fighters and bombers only have a forward-facing radar. Only the skiff and the Sundial have omnidirectionals.
These kind of support frames, you want to bring them kind of like along with your craft, but a little ways back, so that way they provide the radar tracking and supports. Meant to kind of have them working in tandem with each other. This is a force multiplier for the rest of your craft, like your fighters and bombers. So important to make sure you still got radar coverage.
Oh, sorry, it just occurred to me. The skiff can lock, but I don't know how far their lock range is because it mainly is for like when they say it can lock. Sometimes the lock range for the fighters. Like, I think the Tanto can lock as well.
Let's take a look at that. Craft stats, it has radar, can lock, yes. Although, you see this thing only has radar a range of 4 kilometers, so.
Yeah, and the radar, but the fire control radar range might be shorter because if you can lock at 4K, but that would kind of be stupid.
Yeah, so you're going to have like some interesting results there because your craft, you want to have them ideally in their engagement zone. You want to get fire control locked, that way you have the best shot, but sometimes that won't be an option, so you have some craft juking and breaking locks and going after each other in this lovely big fur ball.
Yeah. So, what else? Sundial. Yeah, Sundial. Yeah, 10 km. It allows you to get that omnidirectional sensor coverage. Very powerful. Very valuable, very expensive. Guard with your freaking life.
Yeah, these seem like they're going to be that kind of like, much in the way that we have, say, those little offset spyglass corvettes for about 200 points, give or take. Those are very juicy targets if somebody can go skulking around, say, with a flight of Barracudas and go hunting.
Mm-hmm.
So, important to preserve your assets, again, because radar sensor awareness is very important in a game like Nebulous. We take a look at these last fighters here, the Tantos it was. So these guys are kind of your, I believe the term is aerospace superiority fighter?
No, interceptors. They are... So,
I'm thinking of the Barracudas.
Tantos and Barracudas have this weird sort of asymmetric tit-for-tat going on.
All right.
The Barracuda has an advantage in that it can use the flechette rounds.
Yep.
They're also very good dogfires.
I was thinking just the 35 mil slug option as taken here.
Yeah, so you don't have the flechette round as ANS, so you can use the slug round to attack OSP shuttles and tugboats because the tugboats and shuttles have no armor.
Yeah,
and they would shoot them through quite nicely. But if you look at the craft, but the thing is that the 35 mil for the Tanto is not nearly as good as the flechette round.
Yeah, it's just going to be that kind of like it's there to punch against heavy craft versus the flechette round is your I want to take down your strike craft option.
Yeah, and same with the 20 mil. But even at 20 mil, the Barracuda is slightly better than the Tanto, even just with 20 mil naked loadouts.
Just if you're going like pure nose gun dogfight, then you can take that.
Yeah, but what the Tanto does have, if you check the nose guns out, they have this nasty little surprise. Open it up, Neko.
And which one are we looking at? I'm seeing 20 mil, 35 mil. I'm seeing.
Open the nose gun options.
Ooh, what is this device? 15 mil coil gun.
It has a Sarissa on nose.
Ah, there you go. So you want to bring this thing out. You get Sarissa range, and that's going to be very nasty when you.
No, it's not Sarissa range. No, it's not Sarissa range. Oh,
okay.
God, no. I think one all craft guns fire about 1.5 or 1 km. I can't remember exactly.
So defender-ish range.
But it's a Sarissa on a nose gun. You shoot it deletes missiles.
You shoot, it hits, and you can also, as you said, with this being interceptor role, you can intercept missiles in flight towards target. So let's say, I don't know, OSP decides to throw out a bunch of cruise size 2s and they lazily snake their way across the map. Your carrier player, if they're on the ball, they can order an intercept flight. These guys turn and burn. They'll show up and smack it with either their 20 mil nose guns or their Sarissa guns, or just do other things to intercept that style.
Yeah, but the Sarissa gun's interception performance is noticeably higher than the 20 mil.
20 mil kind of spraying around there because, of course, the craft is going to be shaken around. The accuracy is not quite the same as the stabilized platform on a more capital craft, so...
Yeah, and so the 50 mil just go. That's a great sound effect too. It's lovely.
Right.
Yeah, it's lovely.
Noticeably, it is going to be a little more expensive. Costs 7 points per versus the 0 points for the 20 mil, the 2 points of 35. Yeah. So you are paying a premium for it, but you can get your nice little nose rail sandshot cannon. I guess it's a coil gun, not a rail gun. There's a difference.
Coil gun, yeah. You can get your nice little coil gun cannon. It's very fun. I do recommend if you really want to build your own loadouts. Mixing 20 mil and 15 coil gun is a very good way to get like the benefits of the coil gun without having to pay for your nose.
Anyways, I'm noticing some other things. I was taking a look here. There's a centerline size 2 missile bay on this.
Yes. So this one has a centerline size 2 missile bay because it's carrying, I believe, SDM2s.
Yep, I'm looking at some Tornado Act Wake missiles here, HE frag. So I'm guessing that's for use against enemy fighters or bombers.
Yep. The new SDM series of missiles is a reverse hybrid. You have a fast launch speed and a very slow but maneuverable last boost the main stage.
Yeah, it's your stage phase. So we talked about this. This was shown off it was the Neb B reel. I caught some of this. I had a video on it. Yeah, you can see your cruise speed here, 850 meters a second. So it's going to cross that map stupid quick. But when you actually reach your target, it goes down to only 150 meters a second, this one's key to. However, it's got a really fast turn rate of 8.2 Gs, acceleration of 32.7. So this thing can turn pretty much on a dime, and it's going to be a nightmare to deal with when you have a bunch of fighters. If we want to look at the fleet real quick here, we'll notice there's 2 frigates coming along with this thing. Each has a bank of these little SDM size 2 defense missiles.
Yep.
And I think you had a little bit of a hand in the development of this style?
No. Well, this is no, not entirely. My hand was developing the S2 anti-bomber munitions.
Okay.
I believe math. A couple of you developed 2 different styles of ST2s.
But everyone's had their own little flavor of it. It's just now you've got this nasty little, I want to take out your bomber with the size 2. And if I look at the missile damage, right?
The specific tester invented Maple was snipes. Well, WC snipes.
Yeah, good old snipes. I think he also has the battleship on the cover of Neb, so.
I don't know.
Is that
no? But anyway, I don't know. I think that was high school. Was that? No, I don't know. I really
somebody.
Don't know.
Either way, community involvement. Yippee. So.
Community involvement. So yeah, Snipes did this Starfleet. I don't know whose missiles are these. There might be hunters.
So I'm taking a look at this. It does component damage 98.5. The question then is how much health does one of those say Barracuda fighters or the
Barracudas have So you look at the armor. There's an interaction between armor and and craft health. So if the armor of a Barracuda... I have to cut you off
for a quick second there and mention that armor has gotten a change, so a lot of these missiles have much thinner armor than they did in previous patch. Basically, everything is kind of across the board been divided by 10. So rather than having torpedoes with 3 centimeter armor, now they're down to 0.3. So.
Yeah. So Barracudas have 0.3 armor. So if the armor is overmatched, by this missile, 0.31, you do full damage.
All right.
And if your armor is half, you half damage.
Okay. So just the same damage mechanics as before, where we saw like flak was not effective against torps because it did half damage to them because it couldn't pen through that armor thickness they had.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah, the SDM2 is a lock to blast frag for very good reason.
Yeah. There's some stories going around of like, hey, what if we had like a super maneuverable like reverse hybrid with high explosive impact that could hit ships? And turns out that was quickly shot down because holy crap, that's a bad idea because anything just gets smacked. We know what it looks like when you have these things, because you've seen corkscrew torpedoes, how they can get through defenses. Yeah,
Look,
imagine something
I'm not
with like
comment on what happened there. It's
2-3 times triple the turn rate. That's gonna be a nightmare.
I'm not gonna comment. It was. Let's put it this way: we caught it and we fixed it.
Yep. This is what the playtest is for. So make sure you guys leave feedback and stuff in the various avenues and stuff, depending on how things settle. There might be a hotfix or a tuning or some patches and stuff. Of course, Nebulous is still early access game. Everything is subject to change. This is the first public iteration of carriers, so it's going to be a little bit of a learning process, much in the same way OSP update or the modular missile update before that. It's going to be a little bit of changes here and there in that. I'm just catching.
But I was back from MMU and OSP, and I think we got something really good here. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, everything I've seen so far feels really good about this. Let's just cover the last bits and then hop into a game proper. Yeah.
Sure.
All right.
Sure.
So we covered, it was the size 2 missile bay on this thing. There's the fighter bomber, so you can also take bombs with this if you want. So it goes to show the kind of difference in roles here. So you can potentially get like a kind of more of an attacker role here with a bomb going against a very wounded target. You could go for that void superiority style, going for that nose gun, potentially pick your coil gun to try and intercept other craft. Yeah.
Do you note that Tantos, unlike Barracudas, are not nearly as flexible? They have to equip specific bays to take on certain missiles. So you have the S2 bay, you have the centerline fuel tank, and then you have this S1 bay. There are pros and cons to every single one of them.
Launcher that gives you 4 missiles there, and then the size 2 is just one singular big one.
Yeah. So there's reasons for this. The ANS has like a specific bay for their missiles, and because of the atmospheric flight thing, they're all like, okay, so people are gonna complain and say, oh wait, but why does OSP get all this? I'm like, yeah, true, but they actually technically have the same access to everything. You just have to choose. It's
your choice of how do you want to bring your stuff. Because again, Neb is a asymmetrical game. I don't think that people are complaining that, OSB doesn't have beams and that ANS doesn't have plasma kind of deal, right? Each team has their own respective tools and toys, and they're balanced, expecting the other one to have their own special thing. So depending on what interest you have, OSP, they can have a bit of interesting diversity with how they do the carrier loadouts. Like you can pick how you want to have your Barracuda's wings kitted out, versus the ANS, maybe a little bit more narrow, but also in that specific niche, they can be quite powerful. Like if you want to have this thing kitted out as, say, super size 1 device, you just load it up to the gills with all of these size 1 missiles, maybe ditching these pods, or no, you can't actually do that. So yeah, you get your size 1s, get jamming pods, you get your fuel tanks, then you get a 20 mil nose gun, and that just go for the absolute air superiority style of that. You can do your different choices of your ice cream flavors.
Yeah, that's the idea with ANS. Different choices of ice cream flavors. OSP is like, okay, I just have the bucket available.
All right. Now, I'm noticing some people popping up in chat, and I want to remind you of something. This is a video game. I know we like to draw parallels, especially with the design of the Tanto, kind of reminiscent of some like American fighter craft and that. But remember, this is a video game in a fictional universe of stuff. Don't try and do this perfect real life comparison, because also Neb, again, we've got video game mechanics. We have top speeds in space, our liquid titanium or aluminum or whatever it is. This is meant to be fun, all right? Don't be trying to go full War Thunder on this one. Anyways.
All right. I will bring Amethyst Squadron then. There are 4. We should mention the 4 starfleets with craft, should we?
Yes. We should cover that real quick. I'll just load up here. So as we saw in the selection there we are. So it was the craft. It was Redwood, which has a backpack option there that's just little scouting skiffs on that. And Maple had its dedicated escort carrier with the craft we showed off. Then let's go to, that's my OSP personals starters here. It was Kyanite has the little launch wing on the back there, like Brandon showed off. So that's your 8 flight of just kind of general purpose Barracudas. And then you get Amethyst Squadron over here with its, it's the dedicated carrier fleet. You get Wulfenite adding that light carrier that we have.
Yeah, the Wulfenite Journeyman is a light carrier with a 250mm gun.
Little gun liner on there. Or 250 or 100 mil?
250. 250. Yes, 250s.
Wait. What? Hold on a second. Wulfenite has 250?
Yeah, it's the Neko free estate. you got the so it's got a
yes,
pop
the
gun there.
250 bulker. Sorry, I thought
Yeah, it's got the
I'm an
250
idiot.
bulker,
I was
sorry.
looking at the light carrier's T30 and thinking
No
that's
worries.
not a 250.
Yeah, no, it has a 250 pop bulker, pop gun T30,
Yep.
and
Second
then a
armament
250
on
bulker.
that. Then there's
And
just
then the
some
idea being
little
that
shuttles with
you
it.
have an ASF carrier, and then you have you have a bit of front line and shuttles to help you out.
It's a nice little mixed package if you want to get, say, a carrier and you want to micro that. You want to do a bit of frontline duty with some 250. A nice little 250 bulker can see off, say, a light cruiser or something. And then you've got just 2 rocket shuttles. Nice little extra package. Just I want to bring more stuff to the fleet. Like, want to get some carrier, want to get some Daka, help out of another frontline player, and then just, rocket shuttles. They're damn handy. So,
Yeah. So to summarize the Starfleet tip from my perspective, you want if you want some craft without having to mess around with anything too much, go Redwood or Kyanite, because Redwood has the backpack skiff.
It's a good way of getting your feet wet and figuring out that launch UI, but also still playing familiar Nebulous. Like Redwood is rail destroyers plus a big 450 Axford, so familiar ground. Then on Protectorate side, we had Kyanite there, so you've got, again, big old 450 familiar ground with some more fighters. So nice way of just kind of learning it, which is what I'm going to pick to start off with. So
yeah, for light carrier, Wulfenite is the light carrier. Maple is Maple's a light carrier, but Maple has bombers. And so if you just want to focus on air superiority, just take Wulfenite. If you want some bombs in it, take Maple.
Your choice of how you want to do it. Anyways, okay, so we've actually been yapping at this for about an hour, so we're going to take a little 3-minute break to get ourselves some water, and then we're going to hop into this game proper so we can show you some of this actually in-game. So, chat, we'll be right back. I'll catch you in 3 minutes. Meow meow.
Meow.